All right, so let's look at our section for this week, which is on 5.6, okay, solving equations with absolute value. All right, so you guys already saw this earlier. Okay, I asked you a few questions about absolute value, and I said you can really think of it as it measures the distance from what number? Yeah, from 0. Okay, so that's what absolute value is. If you want something visual, something to think of in your head, you're thinking of a number line, you're looking at your number, you're looking at 0, and you're seeing how far away it is from it. So because it's a distance, what kind of numbers are distances? They're always what kind of number? Always positive. Yep. So would we ever have an absolute value come out negative? No. We could get 0, which technically is in the middle of positive. It's not positive, it's not negative, but absolute value never comes out negative.
What if there's a negative next to the absolute value? So it's like the absolute value sign, but there's like negative.
Yep, we're going to talk about that. Like if you had something like this, like a number on the outside of the absolute value.
What about just a negative sign?
Yep, so that'd be the same idea. You could pretend like it's just a -1. Just a negative sign. So it all falls under that category of having a number on the outside. And if it was set up like this, you could solve it. If I had something like that, okay, that would be a problem. Okay, this would actually be no solution. But we'll show you how to figure that out.
So guys, like it says on your notes there, absolute value measures distance. You write 3 words there. Distance from 0. Like Mr. Hager just said, absolute value never, ever, ever going to be negative. Because even if you walk backwards or you drive south or something, if you're like driving down, like say you go to Florida, you're driving down from Massachusetts, you don't measure that negative. When you walk backwards, you're still, distance is never measured with negative numbers, right? So again, so absolute value never going to be negative ever.
Okay, so now we talked about one simple like 1-step, 2-step, multi-step equations. Okay, that's what we did in the warm-up, looked at some of those. But now we're going to talk about an equation that's got absolute value bars in it. Okay, so any equation that has absolute value bars in it, it's called an absolute value equation. Okay, and we just said it earlier. How many solutions can an absolute value equation have up to? Up to 2. Doesn't mean it's always going to have 2. Okay, in fact, I showed you guys one that only had 1, right? What number did I put in the absolute values that only had one answer? 0. And then when I set it equal to a negative, I think it was Caitlin that said you can't do that. All right, so these are your 3 cases with absolute value. You get 0, 1, or 2 solutions. All right, so there's really 2 steps, okay, to solving an absolute value equation. It's a little wordy to explain the step, but I think it's a lot easier once you just do it and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of see what's going on. But the first thing ties in with what Logan said. Okay, first thing we got to do is make sure our absolute value expression is by itself on one side of the equal sign. Okay, what do we mean by absolute value expression? We mean the stuff inside the bars.
Yeah.
Okay, here's an example of a problem that would be good to go. Absolute value of 2x minus 3 equals 9. Okay, that's a problem that's good. Okay, absolute value is by itself. There's nothing else on the left-hand side except the absolute value.
Almost as like figure the absolute value as like one big variable. Right? You want to get that absolute value before you can solve or set up 2 equations or anything like that. You have to get it by itself.
So here's a problem that is not ready to go. Okay, the reason why this one's not good anymore is because we've got something on the outside of the absolute value that we'd have to get rid of. Okay, here's another example. Again, now this still is not ready to go because we got something on the outside we have to get rid of first. Okay, so I just showed you basically each case you could have. So if you have a number attached to the absolute value, you're going to divide both sides by that number. So here's an example. Putting a 3, no plus sign, no minus sign, just sticking a number right in the front of the absolute value. Okay. Actually, here's another one right here. Just sticking a number right in front of the absolute value. Anybody tell me what operation is between the 3 and the absolute value bar if you don't write anything? Multiplication, right. And the opposite of multiplication? Division. Okay, that's why we would divide. Right, so actually, you know what? Let's just do the first step for this one. We're not going to solve the whole problem, but we're going to just do step 1. Get the absolute value expression by itself. Right, so who can tell me what would I divide by here to get rid of that number that's in front? 3. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Don't touch anything that's inside the bars. Think of those bars as protecting everything that's inside. Okay? You can't do anything to the 2 or the 5. They're protected by the bars. Only thing you can get at is what's outside the bars. 3 divided by 3 cancels. Sam, what's on the left-hand side now? Anything else? There's something up above that should still be down below on the left. The bars, yeah. Okay, we didn't do anything to get rid of those bars yet. That's going to be step 2. But we did get rid of the 3. And Gabe, what's 6 divided by 3? 2. Okay. Now this problem would be ready for step 2. So any question on that step 1? You're not going to have to do this on every problem. Okay. Here's an example we're going to do that you don't have to do it on. Okay. Here's another example. It's absolute value is already by itself. Okay. Then we're going to do one where you do need to do it. Okay. You got to get rid of that number on the outside. All right. So second type. Okay. The second type doesn't just have a number attached, but it's got the number attached in front, and it has something added or subtracted on the end. So both this and that need to go to the other side. But you got to do it in a certain order. Right? So it says if there's a number attached to the absolute value and another number at the end. Okay, first thing we're going to do is get rid of that one. Okay, that's step 1. And how do we get rid of it? Well, if we're adding or subtracting, we do the opposite operation. Okay, so we'll go through this one in a second and see if you guys know how to move negative 14 to the other side. Okay, then after we move negative 14 to the other side, we still have to get rid of that number that's attached in front, just like you guys did up above. Okay, so I just labeled the order you do it in. Step 1, do the opposite operation to get rid of negative 14. Step 2, divide by the number that's attached. Okay, you guys got a spot on your note sheet, just write in that step. Now, are you guys going to have to do that on every single problem? No. Okay, as I just showed you, some problems are already going to have it by itself. You're going to be able to jump right to step 2 and skip all this stuff. Not every problem.
I think they might have a situation too where it's like 6 minus 14, then the absolute value equals a number. It might be like side by side.
Yeah, this, you could have something
guys don't
like
have to
this.
write this, I'm gonna show you a different example of how it might show up. Or you might, different type of example you might see.
So you could have the minus 14 could be
Yeah,
in the front.
and like +6.
Just making up a different problem.
Yeah,
But in this case, you still got to get rid of this first. Okay, you always do any adding and subtracting first. And then step 2 would be to get rid of that 6. Okay, the way I think of it, I always get rid of the things that are farthest away from the absolute value first. Okay? Like this 14 is further away, it's separated by a minus sign. This 6 is right up next to it. Okay? So think of these absolute value bars as they want to protect everything. Right? What's inside is really protected. What's close by is kind of protected. All right? So that's harder to get rid of. Okay? We can't get rid of that till the very end. Always get rid of things that are further away first.
guys, for that bottom one, guys, -14 plus 6 in the absolute value equals 13. What's a common mistake you think that Mr. Hager and I see quite a bit with that kind of a problem? What do you think people do? Any idea? What mistake we see sometimes on a problem like that? What we see a lot of times is we'll see people do -14 plus 6 first. They'll try to combine those things. You can't do that. All right? Get rid, like Mr. Hager said, move the things that are furthest away first, and then work your way in. So you can't. You're not gonna do -14 plus 6. All right? So don't make that mistake.
So you guys good with that? All right. Yeah, I'm just going to solve the one, Mr.
Yeah, we're just giving you a different example to look at.
All right, so who can tell me, I already told you which thing to move first, but how do I move -14 to the other side? Add it, yep. Add 14, and add 14. Everything that's in front of that isn't affected at all. The 6 is still here. Absolute value is still here. That's gone. And what's 10 plus 14? Yep, 24. Now I look at it and I say, is the absolute value expression alone yet? Nope. There's still one more thing I need to move to the other side. Like, someone else tell me, how would I move that 6? About Vic? How'd we get that 6 on the other side? Yeah, we're going to divide it. Remember, if you have a number right up next to something, that means multiply. Okay, so you think, what's the opposite of multiply? Divide. Divide. And what are we going to divide both sides by? 6. Okay, now we finally got the absolute value by itself. So, absolute value of a minus 7. 24 divided by 6. 4. Okay. So this is the goal. You want to get every problem to look just like this. Absolute value, one side, number on the other.
I'm going to show you guys a couple of different examples that you might see where you're going to do a little work before you can get to the second step.
All right, so now the second step, we have to get rid of these bars. Okay? Got to get rid of them. And how many answers can we have to an absolute value equation again? Up to 2. Right? That's why we're going to do this step. We're going to take our original problem and we're going to split it into 2. Okay? That's how you get rid of the bars. And take the original problem and split it into 2. But you can't split it until you've done step 1. Okay. Who can remind me, what was the goal of step 1? What did we do in step 1? About Ryan?
You ensured the absolute value expression.
Was what? what do we ensure about it?
Well, the equal sign?
Not quite. You're on the right track. Anyone help me? Key phrase we're missing. We have to make sure of something about the absolute value expression. But what do we have to make sure of? That it's by itself. All right, so we can't do step 2 until we've done step 1. All right, so now the last part of step 2, we're just going to show you how you split it into 2 problems. Okay, does everybody have the first part of step 2? All right, so usually what I do and what Mr. Roy will probably do is once we have the problem like this, we're going to draw 2 arrows
Break it out.
to split it into 2 problems. And now we're going to write our 2 problems. Okay, for the first problem, okay, for the first equation,
Yeah, and guys, you really don't have to work too much about writing this out, what Mr. Hager's doing, if you kind of have it done like visually on your paper. I think how it's written on your paper will make a little bit more sense. So you don't have to worry about writing this down, just listen.
right, so for our first equation, you're going to write down the same problem you have as the original, okay, which I'll just show you what that would be. That would be that. So you'd write this down again, except you'd do one thing. Remove the bars. Okay, so if I was going to do that for this problem, I would write down a minus 7 equals 4. I just take off the bars. That's it. Okay, and then I go ahead and solve it. And that's one answer. Okay, for the second equation, okay, I'm going to do almost the same thing. I'm going to write down the same equation as the original again. I'm going to remove the bars again. So far, it seems like I'm doing the same thing. Okay, but I got to do one other thing. We're going to change the sign of the number on the other side. Okay, that's what that means. All right, so let's look at this problem. A minus 7 equals 4. A minus 7 equals 4. Okay, let me show you how you'd split that up. For the first equation, write down the same as the original problem, just erase the bars. So literally write this down again, just erase the bars. A minus 7 equals 4. Okay? And then you're going to go ahead and solve that. That's one answer. Okay? For the second equation, write down the same one as the original, take away the bars again. So I'm going to write the same thing again, except that means change the sign of the number on the other side. So this time it's going to be a minus 7 equals, what number would I put right here? Justin? I'm going to change the sign of the number that was right here.
So it was positive?
Yep, it was positive before, so now it's going to be negative 4. Yeah. And these would be the 2 problems we'd now solve. Okay? That's going to give you one answer. That's going to give you a second answer. And I wrote this down as I did it, the word or. Okay, remember last week when we studied 2 important words? We studied or, and we studied, which one? And. All right? This time, we're just using the word or. Sometime, not this lesson, but in future lessons, it's going to matter which word we use. Not today. You always connect your 2 answers with the word or. Okay, that's important. Okay, so any questions on those steps? I'm going to try a couple problems now. And I'm going to show you, again, I'm going to show you on the calculator that shape we get when we do an absolute value.
If it's like absolute value symbol, then 2x plus 4, and then like say like equals 8.
You just make it up. Is that a problem on your sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just look at it.
The inside of the symbols.
Like this one?
Yep.
Yeah.
What would you do for the inside? Would you just do 2x plus 4 equals 8?
That's one problem, yeah.
And then put or, and then you just change the 8 to a negative.
And then the other one, you just change the 8 to a negative 8. Yep.
Oh, so it's-
You don't do anything to what's inside. Yeah. All right, so let's we'll do that one next, but let's do 1A first. All right, so let's look at our steps. I'm going to try to keep the steps up in the problem for the first one so you guys can see it. Okay, make sure the absolute value expression is by itself. Alex, is the absolute value by itself here already? Yep. So you don't need to worry about step 1. All of this is already done for you. You can go right to step 2. Okay, we're going to split this into 2 problems. Okay, anybody think they can tell me one of the 2 equations we're going to split it into? Yeah, Logan?
x minus 1 equals 3.
Good. X minus 1 equals 3. Okay, so that's your first one. Somebody else give me the second one. Almost the same thing, just change one thing. Ariana, what's my second equation? Good. X minus 1 equals negative 3. Okay, so those are my 2 equations. Just one thing I need to put between them so we don't forget. Or. And now we're going to solve each problem. How about Kevin? Can you tell me my first and only step to solve this problem? Add what? Yep. Yep, and where else? And to the negative 1, good. So when he does negative 1 plus 1, that cancels. And Michaela, on the right-hand side, what do I get there? 4. Okay, so that's one answer to our problem. X equals 4. Or, and now we have to get the second answer. Okay, so solving an absolute value equation is really just like solving the problems you've done before. You just have to do it twice per problem. All right. Yep, Kevin.
With the second equation, we add positive 1 on both sides.
Yep. And what's nice about an absolute value problem is however you solve the first one, it's exactly the same steps to solve the second one. Okay, if you added 1 here, you're going to add 1 here. Okay, because this part is always the same as this part. That never changes on both. Okay. So this cancels out. You get x equals, how about Ben, what's negative 3 plus 1?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. Okay, and those are our 2 answers. All right, who remembers what kind of shape is an absolute value? We talked about this. It's a V. Okay. Let me show you what that looks like on here. Okay, so I'm going to just type in absolute value. What is it? X minus 1. Okay, I'm going to put that. I'm going to put that. So what's on the left is going to be a picture. What's on the right is going to be a picture. I want to know where these 2 pictures equal each other. That's kind of a weird way to say it. What does that really mean, where 2 pictures equal each other? And what's going to happen on the screen if it's where the pictures are equal?
Symmetrical.
What do you think? Yeah, Caitlin? Where they intersect. Exactly. I'm going to look where this picture crosses this picture. And where do you think they're going to cross? At what 2 numbers? they're going to cross at 4. It's also going to cross at -2. Okay, so watch what happens. Okay, there's my absolute value. Okay, that's my V shape. Notice as it was drawing it, it kind of wanted to continue down and keep going, but it almost like it bounced right up off it. That's because, remember, absolute value can't go negative, so it has to stay positive. Okay, and let's see where it crosses. Okay, the calculator can automatically tell me where they cross. All right, so let's do the one on the left. Let's go over here. Let me make it a little bigger so you can see it. Where does it say they cross when x equals what? X equals -2. Okay, that's our first answer for where they cross. And now, if we go ahead and do the second one, okay, we should already have a good idea of what it's going to say. Where does it say they cross this time? 4. And 4 is my other answer. All right, so what I'm just trying to show you guys is not every problem has to be done with algebra. Sometimes you can do a problem by making a picture. Okay? And we're going to get into making pictures to solve problems. Not quite like this, but after break. We'll talk more about solving problems using pictures or graphs. Yep.
Are we going to have a quiz this week?
Nope, not on. No. Nope. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about that? Right? And I think that V shape explains a lot. You can probably see how a line could maybe hit that V shape just one time. Everybody can see how it's just touching it one time now? That red line just touches it right at the tip. And then what if I did something like that? How many times is the red line touching the V shape now? None. So this is the kind of problem where if you went to solve it, we're going to look at one like this in a second, you'd have no solution. Okay? So you get 0 solutions, 1 or 2. Okay? So that picture kind of helps explain why. All right, so we'll go through 1B and 1C, and then we'll take a look at example 2A and 2B. All right. All right, 1B. Step 1, make sure absolute value is by itself. Davin, is it already by itself here?
No.
Okay, what do you think is preventing this absolute value from being by itself?
+4.
That's okay. That's inside the bars. Anything that's inside the bars is okay. Is there anything outside the bars?
Yeah.
On the left-hand side?
No.
No. So then this is fine. Okay, the absolute value is already by itself. Okay? If I had something like this, that's a problem. Okay, but we don't. Okay, so we're ready to split it into 2. Okay, Sam, can you give me one of my 2 equations? And then equals 8. Yeah, that's good. Maria, can you give me my other equation? 2x plus 4 equals -8. And the word, Caitlin, we got to put between them? Or. Okay. Now solve each problem. We're not going to do it graphically this time. We're just going to solve it, get our 2 answers. Callan, what's my first step? Yep, I'm going to subtract 4. Subtract 4. Plus 4 minus 4, that cancels out. We get 2x equals 2. And how about, Corey, what's my last step? Divide 2 by 2, anywhere else, anything else? Thank you.
Mr. Hager's doing
Yeah. And 2x divided by 2. Thank you. All right, so the 2's cancel. And I was thinking ahead to what our answer was. Sorry. What's 4 divided?
My first time ever getting you in almost 2 years.
What's 4 divided by 2?
2.
2. X equals 2. Or about Gage? What's my first step on this one?
Did you do +8 or?
Well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. If I do +8 and +8, I get 2x. What's 8 plus 4?
12.
And what's -8 plus 8?
Just cancel that.
So we have 0. So did we get the number away from x in this one? Or do we? No. So we canceled something out, but we canceled it on the wrong side.
Yeah.
So instead of canceling the -8, let's try to cancel the +4.
Yeah, what is this?
So how, you just trying different things out? Just see what happens.
What did you do? -4.
Alright.
-8.
Yeah, I like that idea better.
4. No, I need a -12.
-12. And my last step, same as my last step here. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Thinks we get x equals -6. Or x equals 2. Okay, let's see if those work. Jalen, if I plug 2 in, what's 2 times 2? And what's 4 plus 4? And what's the absolute value of 8? 8. That answer works perfect. Okay, how about Ryan? Let's try -6. What's 2 times -6?
12.
+2 times -6? -12 plus 4? -8. Okay, so -12 plus 4 is -8. And what's the absolute value of -8? 8. Okay, so that answer also works. Okay? So we just checked them to make sure they worked. Let's try last one of this type. 3x plus 1 equals -14. Okay, what would I do first here? What do you think, Logan? What do you think?
We'll get rid of the absolute value signs and then subtract 1 from the positive 1 and from the negative.
All right, you want to tell me how to do that first step that you want to try? What do I do to do that?
Take away the absolute value sign.
Yeah, tell me, what should I write down?
Oh, 3x plus 1 equals -14.
Okay,
Or 3x plus 1 equals, so negative cancel out the negative,
yep,
so it just becomes +14.
+14. It's a little different. Usually we had the positive one first and then the negative one second.
Then next, you subtract the 1 from -14
All right,
and the other side. And
Yep.
you subtract, do the same thing on the other side too.
so we get 3x equals, about, yeah, Kevin?
What were we subtracting?
Yep,
Alright, so -15.
-15. And then my last step, I'm going to get rid of that 3 by dividing. So I get x equals -5. Okay, or, and now we'll solve this one pretty much the same way we did the last one. So Alex, what would I do first here?
Subtract 1.
Okay, so that cancels. And Ryan, what would I finish up with here?
Divide by 3.
Okay, divided by 3. We get x equals 13 divided by 3. You don't have to worry about the decimal. And those are our two answers, right? Any questions on that one? Any thoughts? All right, let's check our answer and see what happens. Let's start with the one that's not a fraction, because that's easier. Okay, but we've got to make sure we do our arithmetic right to check this. Zach, what's 3 times negative 5?
15.
No.
Negative 15.
Yeah, good. Negative 15 plus 1?
Negative 16.
No, you did. That was minus 1. We're going to do plus 1.
14.
We write it out. So 3 times negative 5 plus 1. So you said negative 15 plus 1.
Negative 14.
Negative 14. Okay. So we got negative 14. And what's the absolute value of negative 14? Buddy, help him out. What's the absolute value of negative 14? 14. All right. So any thoughts now? It's what? It's not a solution. It didn't work. Okay? It didn't work because when we plugged it in, we took the absolute value of negative 14. We got positive 14. Okay? What do you notice about this equation? The what? Yeah, there's already a negative on the right-hand side. Absolute value always has to equal what kind of number? Yeah, or it could be 0, but yeah, it can't be a negative. So if you have an absolute value equation equal to a negative, you can go through all that work, but your answers they're not going to check out. All right? So anytime absolute value is equal to a negative, that's no solution. Okay, absolute value cannot equal a negative. If I were to sketch a picture of it, it would look something like this. Here's your V shape. There'd be a line down there. They'd never cross. Okay, so any question on that one? Okay, so no solution on that. All right, so Mr. Roy is going to take a look at, I think 2A and 2B.
2A, 2B?
Yeah.
Got it. Whatever you want, buddy. It's your world. All right, guys, look at this one. Vic, you good? Everything okay?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. For this one, Ryan J., what does it say the answer, well, what does it say this equation equals?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. Is that a problem? It is. How come? It's not supposed to equal a negative. Okay? Now, besides obviously the numbers are different from this problem to the last one we did, example 1C, but how else is this problem different from example 1C that we just did? Kevin? No, no. Kevin? It has a number on the outside of the absolute value. What does that mean, Caitlin? You're going to divide by that number, and that number is negative 2. Great. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. So when you get into a situation like this, guys, where, like we all said, it equals a negative number. But if there's something on the outside, it could possibly make that number that's negative, that it says it equals, it could make that positive. Right? In this case, does that happen? Does it make it positive?
Yeah.
It does, right? What do I get, Logan?
Yeah. Positive 2.
I get a positive 2, right? Negative 4 divided by a negative 2. We talked about this since the beginning of the year. Negative divided by a negative, positive. So I'm going to get 2 here. What am I going to bring down? Chloe, what do I bring down? Because this cancels out now. I did my math over here and I got positive 2. What do I bring down? Because this is all gone now. I did the math over here, so I'm not worried about that anymore. I brought my equal side down. What else do I have to bring down?
3y plus 5.
Anything else? You're on the right track. I like it. I like 3y. I like plus 5. One more thing. Actually, 2 more things. I'll give you a hint, Chloe. The absolute value bars. Okay? Don't forget to bring those down. We're not at the point yet where we're going to get rid of those. Right? We're not quite there yet. Now that I brought everything down, I'm in pretty good shape. Davin, any idea on what to do now?
Would you put 5 under 2?
Not yet. Not quite yet.
And
I'll give you a hint. That help at all?
not really.
Not really? All right, Alexis, what do I do?
You split it.
Split it up, okay. So what's one equation going to be?
3y equals 2.
2, right? When I split it, the first equation that I write is the original equation. I'm writing the same exact thing that's up here. The only thing is, I'm going to write it without the absolute value bars. I'm writing the same exact thing, just without the absolute value. Now, Alexis, over here, what am I going to get?
3y plus 5.
Perfect. 3y plus 5 equals negative 2. All right? So I'm writing one that's exactly the same as what's up here. Then the other one, all I'm doing is making, after the equal sign, make that number negative. That's all I need to do. All right? So that's how I've got it set up now. To solve, all right, Alex, what am I going to do to solve this one?
Subtract 5.
Subtract 5. Guys, if you want to, whatever your first step is for this one, you're going to have the exact same step for this one. So if you want to do it at the same time so you don't forget, you can do that too. Right? Because I don't care what the numbers are, what operations are going on there. Whatever you do in this equation here as the first step, you're going to do the exact same thing over here. It's the exact same steps. All right? So this is going to cancel out. I'm going to bring my 3y down. 3y equals what, Kevin? Negative 3, right? Negative 5 is bigger. I take the sign of the bigger number. Kev, finish this one off for me. Divide by 3. Always divide by the number with the variable. Y equals what? Negative 1. Perfect. Thank you. Kev, I'm going to ask you one more thing before I let you off the hook. Can you tell me what word separates the two equations?
Or.
All right. Gage just helped you out.
Sorry.
Or, right? It's okay. Or. So this one's done. All right. We already subtract that negative 5 over here, just like I did for this one. Bring my 3y down. This cancels out. I get a negative 2, and I get a negative 5. What do I get, Justin? Negative 2, negative 5. Negative 2. Right? Signs are the same. Keep the sign, add the numbers together. Right? So, negative 7. Last step. Anybody know? Rose? Last step for this one?
You divide by 3.
Divide by 3. Y equals, Rose?
Y equals. But 3 isn't going to 7.
Yeah. So we can just leave it as negative 7 over 3.
Okay.
You don't have to, if you know how to make it a mixed number, you can, but you can leave it like that. Because we're not having you guys graph it or anything like that, right? We're not going to make you check it every single time, right? So you can just bring this down as negative 7 over 3. That's it. That's all you got to do. Okay, Chloe? You all right with that? right, 2C we're not doing, right, Mr. Hager? All right. Now this one. Similar to the last one we did. Ariana, why is this one, how is it similar to the last one we did? Obviously it has absolute value, I know that. But what else? Has numbers on the outside, but how is it a little bit different? It's 2, exactly. Right? The last one we did only had 1 number on the outside. This one has 2. The last problem we did, 1 step, right? We just had to divide, got it by itself, we were good. 1 step. Samantha, because we have 2 numbers on the outside, how many steps do you think we're going to have to get the absolute value by itself? 2. What do you think that first, what did Mr. Hager say the trick was when you have 2 things outside of the absolute value? Which things should you move first? Do you remember what he said? Or the thing that's furthest away from the absolute value. All right? So what's the thing that's furthest away from the absolute value, Samantha? The 8, right? What do you want to do with that 8? Subtract it, right? Remember, let me say this again. Don't do 8 plus 5. Right? Gage? Can you make me a promise?
Yeah.
All right? I want you to be able to promise me. I don't want to go on a vacation worrying about this. Over vacation, if you run into an absolute value problem that looks like this, I don't want you to add these 2 things first. Can you make me that promise? I want to be able to sleep over vacation. Thanks, buddy. All right, I got 8 plus 5. So like Samantha said, minus the 8. Love it. Minus 8 from where else, Samantha?
68.
Excellent. That's step number 1, right? So I'm going to bring everything else down. This canceled out. 5. Here's my absolute value. 68 minus 8. 60. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Zach Pena. What am I going to do now? So I did want, so we agreed at the beginning that we were going to have 2 steps to get the absolute value by itself. We already did one of them. All right, we already subtracted the 8. What's the second and final thing we have to do to get the absolute value by itself? Divide by 5. Very good. So divide by 5. This will cancel out. I'm going to divide by 5 over here. All right? Zach, what's left here on this side? On this left-hand side? Yeah. Make sure I bring the absolute value down too, right? Okay. And then 60 divided by 5? 12. Now, Mr. Blomquist, I'm going to let you redeem yourself from the first time that we spoke today. And I think you know how to do this now. Davin, what do I do now? All right. What's this equation going to be? Excellent. Don't worry about solving anything yet. Look at I wrote on the board, Dad. Original. All I'm going to do when I split it is just write the original equation without the absolute value bars. That's all I'm doing. Not doing any math yet. All I'm doing is rewriting it without the absolute value bars. All right? You got those bars up there. These numbers inside of the bars are in jail. All right? You got to break it. You got to break them out. Right? One that now, when like people sometimes you watch those like movies where people like break out of jail and stuff like that. Sometimes they might dress up as different people or use an alias or something like that. So here's the normal guy who's in jail. He's split out. He's just normal. Then you got this guy over here. He breaks out. He's almost the same, but he's going to use that negative sign, like a fake mustache, to kind of like cover himself out so we can be out in the public. All right? So you got these bars. Break them out of jail. All right? You got to break them out. In order to do that, have the normal guy The original guy, then the guy over here with the negative with the fake mustache. He's kind of on the run from the law. Okay? So we got that. Now this is just like any old equation that you've solved 100 times before. Okay? First thing I'm going to do, Maria, what do you want to do to solve this one?
The first one?
Yeah.
U minus 6.
Minus 6. And what did I say earlier? The first step in this equation, can you finish that sentence? The first step in this equation will be, anybody know? The same exact. So like I said, if you want to, so you don't forget, you can do it both at the same time. That way you know when you come back to this one, right, you got to do the same thing. So we'll do this, we'll do this. I'm going to minus 6 from 6. Maria, minus 6 from 12 too, right? Excellent. Equals. What am I bringing down, Logan? What am I bringing down for this one?
For that one right there?
Yeah.
Negative 2y.
Excellent. Because some people forget to bring that negative down.
Equals
So that's
negative-
perfect.
Equals negative 2.
Equals what?
Negative 2.
So you're telling me that 12 minus 6 is negative 2?
Oh, that's minus. I thought it was divided. Sorry.
No, it's a minus. So 12 minus 6?
6.
Good man. Now, Logan, now you can do what you want to do.
Okay,
What-
now you do negative 2 divided by y and then also divided by 6.
Divide by negative on the both. That gives me the y I want here. 6 divided by negative 2.
I mean negative 2.
Negative 2 or negative 3?
I said negative 3, but then you looked at me.
I did? Okay. I like negative 3. Sorry. Good. Like I did over here. Minus 6. I'm going to minus 6 again. A negative 12 and a negative 6. Kev. Good man. Negative and a negative. Keep we're not multiplying and dividing here, guys. So I get negative 18. Just like Logan told us on this equation on the left-hand side, I get a negative 2y. All right? Chloe, do you think you might know what our last step is? It's pretty much the same thing I did in this equation. 5. Careful. You're missing something. Not 2. Nope. Michaela, what am I going to multiply? What am I going to divide by? Negative 2. We don't need the y, just negative 2. So Chloe, you were close. You just forgot the negative. Always divide by what's attached to the variable. We've done that since the beginning of the year. Y equals negative divided by a negative. Victor, negative divided by a negative. Positive what for this one? Huh? What are we getting, guys? 9. Remember, what word separates it? What word separates it? Remember? What word separates these two? Anybody remember? Or. Good. So that's pretty much every kind of problem you'll see tonight on the homework. Guys, what if you just had something like this? So you guys okay if I go to the next page? What if you had something like this, guys?
Whoa.
What if you had that? Look at the board. Look at the board. Look at the board. You too. Kevin. Split it. Okay. What about?
You get C equals 6 and 4.
Oh, okay, good.
C equals negative 6.
Perfect. Guys, for something like that, there's no math involved. It's all set. All you have to do is just split it. There's nothing else you have to do. All right? Homework, guys, tonight. It's your last homework assignment of the year 2015. This should say, and a mistake will probably change it, this should be 5.6 worksheet. There are 6 problems. That is it. 6 problems. There's no reason why people shouldn't get it done. 6 problems, okay?